Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I am actually doing something a little bit different from what I've done previously in my other videos. Today I am going to be showing you 3 games I played in an over-the-board tournament today, and I won all 3 of them and I got first place in the tournament. So I'm excited to share the news, and yeah, let's get straight into game number 1. Okay, the first game, I was playing black. So my opponent played e4. Let's flip the board so we can see it from my perspective. And I played c6, the Caro-Kann defense. The point of the Caro-Kann defense is to put the pawn on c6 and then prepare d5, push in the center, and then target the e4 pawn. So the main move here is d4 to take the entire center for white, and then it goes d5, and there's many variations here like e5, knight c3 is one of the main ones. There's also knight bd2, actually knight d2 because there's no knight here. Usually when there's a knight here and a knight moves here, it's called knight bd2 because there's also knight fd2. But in this case, it would just be knight d2. Anyway, so that's like the main line of the Caro-Kann. But instead, my opponent played knight c3, which is kind of interesting. And I did the what I was supposed to do, right? Strike back in the center, even though it's not like the line that exactly I was supposed to play. My opponent took the pawn. I took back, and then we got bishop b5 check here. Now there's many different options. There's bishop here, there's knight here. Those are the 2 options really, because if I go knight d7, right, I just lose this pawn right away. So I played knight c6, and then my opponent just developed. I also developed my knight castles. I pinned the knight, and then he attacked me. Apparently the best move here is just to take. Usually in the Caro-Kann, you just want to take and allow this trade to happen because this knight is usually better than the bishop. But I didn't really remember that theory, so I went bishop h5, which is an inaccuracy, but it's still even, as you can see. Very much even. So, d4, striking back in the center. I decided to kick the bishop. Also, another inaccurate move, bishop a4. It was also better for him to take and allow this trade to happen. Um, so after bishop a4, I kicked out the bishop even more. And in this position, actually, my opponent had a brilliant sacrifice which he missed. The sacrifice is knight takes b5. And the point is that after I take it and he takes, let's say I just do some like random move, then he's gonna start pushing over here because he has these passed pawns over here, and he's gonna try to promote on this side of the board. So it's very dangerous to play as black against this. So that's kind of the point. But he didn't see that, or maybe he was just trying not to be risky. So he played bishop b3, which according to the engine is a mistake, but as you can see, it's like the second, third best move here. So yeah. Um, I took the knight now, and the reason is because I was thinking, well, if the queen takes, then, oops, if the queen takes, then this pawn isn't guarded anymore, so I can just take it. And if the pawn takes, then now this king line, this line that the king is on is super weak. So I can like go e6, finish my development. Wow, arrows are terrible today. Finish my development and then start like a kingside attack over here. So that was my line of thought. Apparently after queen takes, which is what happened and I took this pawn, it's actually equal if my opponent plays queen d3, which is the only move. And now I basically can't retreat because I lose this pawn, so I have to take this knight. And apparently this is like playable with white. So even though it's down a pawn. Some openings are like that. Even though you're down a pawn, it's still fine. My opponent, though, played queen f4, and I just traded here, which is apparently a great move. Only good move if I... There's also knight e6, but then everything after that is just losing, apparently. So knight takes b3. He took back. And then, I went e6, protect the pawn, get my bishop out so I can get castled. Queen e5 is an inaccuracy because now I can develop and hit the queen at the same time, right? I played the best move, which was not that hard to find. uh, Queen d4, and then, yeah, so e5 here. this pawn is only guarded twice and it's attacked twice. So if I lose one of the defenders, then it's only guarded once but attacked twice. But the point here is that you can't spend time taking this because my pawn attacks your queen. So you have to move the queen, and you can't take it with the queen because my knight is just there, right? So after the queen moves, I wanted to go d4. That was the idea. The engine doesn't really like it because it thinks I should like finish my development. As you can see here, castling is better, or h6. But yeah, e5, queen d2 by my opponent. And then here, yeah, I saw this d4. This was my original idea, but I decided not to play it for some reason. I'm not too sure why. I just thought this was a bit better because like I was up material, so I wanted to get this trade in. Anyway, oops, I accidentally skipped to the end. Hold on a minute. Alright, here is where we were. So my opponent played queen e3, and then I decided to trade here, and he can't spend time taking this, right? If this wasn't a bishop, it was like a knight or something, he could gain a free pawn here, and then after I move my king or block or whatever, he could take back like this. But since this is a bishop, it actually protects the pawn, so he can't do that. And then he took back with the queen. I went queen d6 because I think his idea here was queen c6 check, and I didn't want to like lose this pawn. So like for example, castles. Castle just hangs this pawn, but like I don't know. Let's say I defend this pawn, and there's queen here, and that actually loses the rook because my queen's not defending it anymore. But you know, so queen d6, stopping any ideas there. Bishop e3 is a mistake because I have this nice fork, but the fork doesn't work because of one move in the position. And that move that my opponent found is queen d3 because I can't take the bishop now or else I lose my queen. So here the best moves are like queen c6, queen c6 and like castle. I castled, very simple. He played bishop d2. Now, I'm not too sure why this is a mistake. I think it just doesn't want it to retreat because, remember, here, like, he can just, like, play whatever move he wants, and I still can't take this because there's still that pin on the queen. So bishop d2, I played e4 attacking the queen. He moved it away, and I was like, well, I'm up material, why not trade? And that's exactly what I did. And then e3, he moved his bishop. I moved my rook out of the way because he was attacking it. And then rook a e1. I attacked the bishop, and yeah, I'm not too sure what happened here. He just forgot about his bishop. So apparently here knight d5 is better because after takes I get to take this way and keep my pawn structure alive. But I didn't want to like complicate things. I mean, he had just blundered a bishop, so I just took it in like less than like 10 seconds or something. 5 seconds probably. And he took here. I played e2, and my idea is that if he takes here, I'm gonna go here and then get the rook on the back rank. And then it's pretty much gonna be over because after he takes, I get to promote. Or if he sacks his rook, then I'm just up a rook, right? All I gotta watch out for is getting back rank mated because I have these 3 pawns here that stop the king from escaping. So that's my only problem. But as you can see, as you will see, I handle it pretty well. So yeah, that's exactly what happened. Rook a d8. He moved his king there because he thought this was like gonna be a pin, but that doesn't really matter because I can still play it anyways. And yeah, if you take the rook here, then I get a queen, so it's pretty much over. And what else can you do? You can't really do a whole lot, right? You have to sack your rook, which is what he did. And then I took, and then the rest of the game is pretty similar. Yeah, rook takes b5. Now here I played g6 because I didn't want to get back rank mated. Here, back rank mate isn't even possible. Like, if I just, like, play some random move. This isn't even possible because my rook can block and it's guarded by the knight. But, let's say, for example, I had taken this pawn, though. Then this would just be mate, right? I have to block with the rook. He takes, block with the rook. He takes, block with the knight. He takes, and this is mate. So, I just have to be a little bit careful, but I didn't really need to do that. I was just, I was preparing taking this because right now I can't take it as I just showed you. So that's what I was preparing. Apparently the engine here likes knight g4 check. Why does it like that? Takes, and then it wants g5. And then rook f8? What is this? I mean, he has triple pawns, but what is the point? Oh, is okay, the point is like here. That's the point, and you can't stop mate. So yeah, the best move here is to sack your rook. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting way to finish off the game. But anyways, back to the game. G6. He just made some shuffling moves. I took his pawns. And then I attacked this one, and he didn't want to be checked, so he moved up. But now I can just take. And here, apparently there was just like here, looking for this. And then there's no way to stop that other than like sacrificing the rook. But I didn't do that. I just wanted to simplify things, so I just took here. Yes, I lost a knight, but now I can just take this. Check. And here, if he moved anywhere back, it would take a couple moves for me to win. A lot more than a couple, actually. I would have to bring my king and take his pawn, and then I would have to promote a new queen and do like a ladder's mate. But instead, he went up here. He went king g5. So now I did king g7, and I made sure it's not stalemate, because even though the king can't move, he still has a pawn which can, which is the only move. And then I got this nice f6 checkmate that you saw when I accidentally went to the end of the game, right? Alright, so that's how I won my first game. Let's go ahead and move on to game number 2. Alright, the second game I was playing white. So let's see what happens. So I played e4. My opponent played c5, the Sicilian defense. And I have a lot of options here. I can play the Alpine Sicilian, I can play the Boulder attack, I can play a standard variation like knight c3 and knight f3. I just played knight f3. We got knight c6, and then I played the bishop b5 Sicilian. Now, the bishop b5 Sicilian is interesting because usually in Sicilian variations, white tries to go for like the center attack like this, and then black either plays the dragon variation like this, or d6 and the knight orf. But bishop b5 just like gets to the point right away and says, well, if you go here, then I'm gonna take your knight because it's pinned, so why not take it? So it's just like attacking the knight right away. My opponent played a6, and here there's a very common trap called the Noah's Ark trap, where if you move the bishop back in the Sicilian, then there's b5, and now my bishop can't take because of pawn defense, so I have to go back. But now this pawn on c5 moves down to c4, and my bishop is trapped. There's nowhere to go. I lose a piece right away, and I'm gonna lose the game, right? So I didn't want that to happen, which is why I took the knight, which was the only move. As you can see here, everything else is losing for white. Okay, so let's move on to the game. He took back with the b pawn, which I thought was interesting because I would take back with the d pawn so you can get like your bishop out. But he took with the b pawn. Not gonna question it. Knight c3, and after this kind of, regular Sicilian position, he played g6, which I thought was very interesting. When I played g6, I was like, oh my god, what are you doing? Because I knew this wasn't like a good move, but I didn't know like how to counter it, right? The engine wants d4 here just to get the center right away, and take with the queen so that the bishop can never go to g6 or g7, sorry. But I didn't do that. I didn't know how to punish it, right? Like I knew this isn't a good move because it's too late to like play the dragon. But I didn't know what to do. I just played d3 to develop my bishop and then get castled. And that's exactly what I did. I get castled and then I develop my bishop. Bishop d2 is an accuracy apparently. It's more accurate to play e5. I'm not sure how that works. Takes and then rook e1. What about like f6? Bishop e3. I just like target the weaknesses. What about like queen here? Knight a4. Okay, yeah, this line is very deep, and knight a4 does 3 things. It attacks the queen, it helps to attack this pawn with the bishop, and it defends this pawn. So, like, this is a very deep line. But anyways, I'm not Stockfish or a Grandmaster, so didn't see that. I went bishop d2, thinking that if takes, I want to take with my bishop and keep my pawn structure healthy because I was like, well, if I go bishop here, then he can take, and now I have an isolated pawn. even though the engine seems to like this position for white a lot because the bishop, you know, one thing you shouldn't do in the Sicilian positions, especially dragon position, or any other Vienketoed position, is you shouldn't trade off the Vienketoed bishop for a piece that's like less valuable than it, because the Vienketoed bishop is on the biggest diagonal in chess, um, all the way across the entire board. So you shouldn't trade it off because it's very powerful. Anyways, back to the game. Bishop d2. He played h6. I don't know. I guess to stop anything from coming to g5. I guess that was the idea. And then I played h3, kind of do the same thing, prevent bishop g4. He develops, I go rook e1. This is kind of a mistake because the computer wants me to keep the rook on this file and try to maybe like move the knight and then open up this file, but it doesn't really matter too much. He castles out of the way. I go queen c1, setting up this kind of battery. And he plays g5 here, which I thought was interesting because even though the computer says it's the second top move, me personally, I would have played like king h7 because I don't want to open up my king side by playing like g5 because like sacking right now is going to be a mistake, but like later there could be a huge king side attack going like with pawn moves here like g5. So yeah, I played h4. I was just trying to be aggressive. This plan kind of fails due to g4, and now I have to move my knight back. And yeah, this pawn's hanging, but black can just defend it, and it's all good. But black didn't see that. My opponent didn't see it. And instead he played knight to h7. This is a blunder, actually. It goes from minus 0.07, minus negative 0.1, let's say, to plus 1.0. So I would say it's a mistake, but okay. Yeah, because now this just drops the pawn, takes, and now I win a free pawn. Apparently I'm not even supposed to take with the knight. Taking with the bishop is just better, because after knight takes, now my queen can get in here, and I have my knight still, and the knight is better than the bishop. But I took with the knight. They went e5, and now I went f3, and my idea was that I was going to play king f2 and then bring this rook over here and try to create some checkmating attacks. Bishop h6 is a mistake because, whoops, hold on. All right, bishop h6 is a mistake because now I can take the knight, and after the king takes back, now I get this bishop for free. But what I was thinking was, after I take the knight, he can take my bishop, and when I take, he also takes, and that was just an even swap of material, right? I got a knight, he got a bishop, or sorry, he got a bishop here, and then I can take this, and then he takes. So it's a knight and a bishop for a knight and a bishop. So what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is that the computer really likes my position here because I have these pawns here set to go, and I can just swing my rooks over anytime and start creating problems for the black side. So that's why the computer likes it so much. Plus 2.5, even though I'm only up one single pawn. Anyways, back to the game. He took, and then I got a free bishop. So now I'm just pretty much winning. So there's not a lot of review after this point. But oh wait, there is. I forgot about this one. Right. King f2. This is a blunder because the queen can come here, and not because it's a fork. Because it's not a fork. It doesn't matter that it's a fork. Because if you take this bishop, then there's rook here. Sorry, this doesn't work because there's mate. Oh, okay. There's mate. Because the queen cuts off the escape of the rook. But what was it? Oh, maybe it was g3. Right, it was g3. And you can't take this because there's rook h1 because it's pinned. But 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 the problem with g3, which is what I played in the game, is that black can just go here. I can't move my king back because this is checkmate. And if I move my king up here, now they can take this because it's check. And then after I move my king, they can just take this and, it's equal. I'm up a pawn, but this is hanging, so now I'm not up anything. So that was the entire idea. But luckily, my opponent didn't see it either. And they played queen takes h6. So now we got this rook h1. There is this interesting move here that my opponent tried bishop h3 to stop me from winning the queen. And even though it does stop me from winning the queen, it lets me trade queens and then take this bishop. So now it's just up a bishop and a pawn. So this was a pretty clean endgame from here. Yeah, we were just shuffling pieces around. And I played f4. The point is that after I take and he takes, I get to win this pawn, which my opponent didn't spot, so they just did a random move. I just defended this, and then they did another random move, so I did exactly that and then won that pawn. And then it was just a bunch of converting from a winning position to a one game. Yeah, here I don't know what happened here. They just gave up a rook. And then here I found this nice little idea. Knight c7 attacks the rook. It can't go to g8 because this rook's here. It can't go to h8 because this rook is here. And when it goes to f8, we have this fork here. So that was the nice idea. And yeah, and I took this. And then, oh yeah, there was a mate in 2 here. Rook h7 here, and then any one of these is mate. But I didn't see that. I didn't mate in 3, I think. Rook a7, and then here, and then checkmate. So yeah, with that, that's how I won the second game. And let's go ahead and move on to the third game. Alright, third game, I was again black, so let's go ahead and flip the board. My opponent played e4, and I again played the Caro-Kann defense. Yeah, I play the Caro-Kann a lot these days. I used to play more like e5 and standard openings, but nowadays I play more Caro-Kann. But yeah, d4 d5. This was a more like in-depth theory game because d4 is the main move. I think my opponent in the first game just didn't know that. They just developed the knight, which is totally fine, but this is the main theory, so now you'll get to see some. D5, E5, the advanced variation, and I played C5. Now there's many different moves here. There's bishop F5, there's C5, there's bishop D7, there's A6. There's a lot of moves. I just played the line that I learned, which is C5. And the point is that if you take, your pawns are super weak, so I can attack them very easily. And then yes, you can defend it, but now I have E6 to attack this one. And yeah, you can keep defending it, but okay, that just hangs a pawn. How do you defend this? Here, maybe, right? Like you can keep defending it, but then I just get my pieces into the end. It's kind of like playing a gambit, basically. But he played C3, which is I think the best move, or one of the best moves, second best move. And I took this. He took knight c6. Very standard. This is all theory. Bishop f5. We're both developing, and then I go e6 so I can get this bishop out, this bishop out, this bishop out. Thank you. And then we just traded. I brought my bishop out. He attacked it. I moved back. I went back again. He castled. My knight can't go here, so it has to go to e7. And the point was I'm trying to bring it to f5, which I think I do eventually, but not immediately. I attacked the bishop. He went back. Now here there was g5 apparently. And after bishop g3, I can go knight f5 and just create a kingside attack and just not castle in this game, I guess, is the kind of the point. I didn't do that. I just castled out the way of the center, because the center is closed right now, but it could be opened up eventually with like f4, f5 ideas. So, didn't want to take any risks, just get castled. Principle chess. Queen e3, queen d7. The point is that I want to get out of this pin so that I can actually move the knight to f5. And now you see I do move the knight to f5. This bishop's attacked. I mean, it is defended, so I'm not really sure why it went back, but it's the top computer move. So, maybe he wanted, like, reposition the knight, and he didn't want his bishop to be hanging, so that's why he did it. I went bishop b6, attacking this pawn, because it has 3 attackers now, and only 2 defenders. So, he added a 3rd defender, which is the only good move, as you can see. Everything else lets me win a pawn, basically. There's also knight b5, which some of you people might ask, but what's the best move here, if you can try to find it? Well, if you've had a chance to look at that, the correct move is a6, kicking out the knight, and there's nowhere it can go now. I mean, it can go here, but then you can just take this, and this is just winning. So, yeah, that's the point. So, knight e2, only move. I went rook a c8 to open up this file in case this knight ever moves. And then my opponent played b5. I moved the knight out of the way. And then here, apparently, rook c4 was more accurate, so that if we trade rooks, then I take with pawn. And then I also open up the queen over here. But I just played knight c4 because I thought it might be a nice outpost, right? It's defended by the pawn, and it controls a lot of squares in the opponent's territory. a4, I played a6, just to, put some pressure over here. He took, I took. And the knight h4. And I didn't want to let, let's say I play a random move. Then they can take here, get rid of my good knight. And they can't take this pawn yet because my queen defends it. Sorry, the evil bar went up. But it's just, it's not like concretely defended, right? Like when it's like this, it's in a pawn chain. They're all defending each other. This is heavily defended. And the knight is defended. It's an outpost. But when it's like this, then, they're all like scattered. There's double pawns here. There's an isolated pawn here. The pawn structure isn't as good. So, I took over here. I decided that taking the bishop is better than taking the knight, which apparently is correct. And the knight took back, and now I took this pawn. My opponent won it back, but apparently I could have stopped that. So here, in this position, I had this nice little fine knight takes e5. And the point is, we're counterattacking the queen. So, it's like a Zwischenschlag, in-between move. So, after rook takes, we can also take. And we just want a pawn from that little encounter. But even if I didn't see that, I went queen b5. After this, there's still queen d7. And it takes, and it's still a draw, which is what happened. Alright, so let's continue with the game. Bishop a5 here. And then he played knight h5. I attacked this knight here. And the best move here is actually to sacrifice the knight. Now, black only has one option. Because if you move the king, then this is mate. And if you take with the queen, then that's just a free queen. So you have to take this. And now, the 2 best moves here, I'll just show one of them for now, is queen g3. And wherever the king moves, in this case, there's knight f5, sacrificing another knight. And you can't stop this checkmate unless you're willing to go here, give up your queen, and then lose a rook as well. But, yeah, so you kind of have to take this now. And now, we take this pawn. And they're threatening queen g7 checkmate. So the only move is to counterattack the queen like this. But after takes, and takes, and takes, this, what? Oh, h takes. This is a draw. It's a crazy position. Crazy position. But at the end of the day, it's a knight and a bishop for a rook and a pawn. So it's a draw. Insane position, but it's still a draw. Anyways, going all the way back, my opponent didn't see that. They played queen g3, looking for this. And I can't even go g6 here because they can just sack the knight. And I can't take because check. And then, my position is crumbling here. So, I can't do that. So, I found the only move here, which is to block with the queen. Queen g5. Now my opponent took, and I took back, obviously. They attacked my pawn, and here I played a mistake. Bishop here, turning the position to a draw. I was winning here if I played the only move, which is g4. And the point is that this knight can't move to a square that still attacks the pawn. So if we can just find a way to defend it by like going g6 and f5 or something like that, then we should be fine. But I thought that there's no way to defend it, so I was like, aha, this is a creative way to defend it. You know, bring the bishop from here to here, like this. But this was a mistake because rook a2. It's a great move, but it's not the only move. As you can see, there's g4, h3, rook a2, a bunch of moves. But, you know, still a good move, attacking the bishop. So now I had to move it here, right? I still could have gone here because after takes, I can also take this one. So now I'm actually winning again. But I didn't see that. I was like, I need to stay protecting this pawn. So now g3. But to my credit, I wasn't like, oh no, the bishop's trapped. I gotta get rid of it for at least like a pawn. I found the only move here. And yeah, if the knight moves, oops, not there. The knight moves like here, for example, now we can escape with the bishop. And if the knight doesn't move and they take my bishop, which is what happened in the game, now I can take back. So yeah, up until here, it was completely fine and drawn. But then, my opponent played rook b3. And pause the video and try to find out if you can find the best move here. Let's look at that. Don't feel bad if you didn't find it, because I found it and it was really hard. I spent like 2 minutes in this position because I was like, whoa, that feels wrong. And the move is knight d2. Now, the point is, we're defending this pawn, which is very crucial because it's cutting off the escape square of the king. So if we could just get our rook to the back rank here, that would be mate, because it's like a back rank mate, except this pawn is already moved. So we need to control this square as well, which this pawn is doing a great job of defending. So if only we can get our rook there, but we can't just move through pieces. So we gotta get this knight out of the way. And if we like move the knight to some random place, for example, of course they can't take this because it's mate. But instead, they can just take the pawn. And now this doesn't do anything because now there's just king g2. And they survived because they had one legal move in the position. You don't get any credit for being so close to mate, even though you are very close. So knight d2, like, solves all of that, right? First of all, the rook is attacked, so they have to do something about it, or else they're just going to be losing. But they can't do anything about it, because if you try to take this pawn now, then you just lose the rook, and now you're losing. And you can't go to defend the back rank, because the knight also controls that square. So, yeah, it's either give up your rook or hang mate kind of position. So, my opponent just played rook d3, they didn't know what to do. They knew they were losing, and then I delivered the final blow by playing rook to c1. Checkmate. So yeah, that's how I won all 3 of my games, and I got a trophy for being in first place in the tournament. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was pretty different actually from most of the other videos I've recorded. I don't think I've, have you guys see a game or see games that I've played in like a tournament. So yeah, as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something today. Please let me know how it was in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Like and subscribe!